Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The human man killed the king. Now all the alien women are his concubines. Calder Vance had always hated galas. Something about the sound of alien instruments, straining to emulate human jazz over the hum of grav-lift chandeliers, made his skin itch. He stood at the edge of the grand hall of Zaratha, swirling the drink he hadn't touched, its surface shimmering with something that definitely wasn't olive oil, though it moved like it had opinions. Around him, towering alien women glided across the floor with predatory grace, their elongated ears twitching slightly beneath jeweled circlets. He was the only human in the room, and he wore a suit stitched with diplomatic brocade and enough hidden weaponry to make a cyborg blink twice. A floating servitor drifted past him, its orb-like body blinking with cheerful glyphs. "Ambassador Vance, would you care for a tongue bloom canopy?" "I'd rather eat my boot," Calder muttered. The servitor chirped approvingly and offered him a tray of what looked suspiciously like raw jellyfish wearing hats. He waved it off. A voice slithered into his ear. "You look stiff, Ambassador. First time on Zaratha." He turned. The speaker was tall, even for her kind, with skin like moonlight and a smile that belonged on a poster titled Diplomacy for Seductresses. Her ears were long, delicate, and pierced with rings that glowed faintly in the hall's ambient light. She extended a hand. "Consort General Lissy," she said. "We've been watching you." "I'd be offended if you weren't," Calder said. "I've been practicing my brooding in reflective surfaces all evening." Lissy tilted her head, amused. "Brooding is popular among assassins, yes." "Who says I'm an assassin?" "You're holding your wine like it's a grenade," she said. "Also, the translator node under your collar doesn't match the diplomatic standard. It's military issue, and it's humming." Calder didn't blink. "Well, I was hoping to impress someone." "Oh, you've certainly done that." She turned, her gown sweeping the floor, with a whisper. "Come, the king is ready to meet you." The throne room was the size of a stadium, designed less for comfort and more for intimidation. Calder walked the path of molten glass tiles behind Lissy, his boots making no sound, his heart thudding hard enough to register on seismic scanners. At the far end, King Veldar reclined on a living throne, the bioorganic thing twitching slightly, as if irritated by his presence. Veldar was monstrous even by alien dictator standards. His skin shimmered like oil on water, and his mouth curled in a permanent sneer. Around his neck hung a collar of withered planets, a grotesque trophy Calder had only heard about in rumor. The court fell silent as the human approached. "You," the king said, voice deep enough to rearrange molecules. "The ape who calls himself diplomat. Do you have words worth hearing?" Calder bowed low. "Just one." He stepped forward, close enough now to see the faint pulse beneath Veildar's triple heart cluster. Calder's hand brushed the translator node, flicking the internal blade to life. The hum shifted from blue to crimson. "One." Veildar sneered. Calder smiled. "Goodbye." He struck fast. The blade hissed as it plunged beneath the armored ribcage, sinking through the alien king's hearts with surgical precision. The throne shrieked in protest. Veildar's eyes widened. He made a gurgling sound that might have been a curse, or an insult, or the word banana. And then he slumped. Dead. The silence that followed was monumental. Not a scream. Not a rush of guards. Just stillness. Then someone laughed. High, lilting, melodic. It was Lissy. "Finally," she said. "Someone did it." Another voice joined. Then another. Within moments, the throne room sounded like a comedy club on amateur night. Calder stared. "Did I miss a memo?" Threnna stepped forward from the shadows, her scarred jaw set, but her eyes glinting. "Oh, we hated him. We were just waiting for someone else to pull the knife. You, human, have won the royal lottery." Wait, Calder said, backing up a step. I wasn't applying for a job." "You're the first man to kill a ruler in the last century," said a voice behind him. He turned and came face to face with Yari, her tattoos flashing cyan and fuchsia. "According to Zirathan law, that makes you the new royal consort." "What?" "King, technically," Lissy added. "But here we don't deal in singular authority. The consort bond means you share power, with all 27 former companions of Vaildar. Us? No. Too late, Threnna said. You signed the diplomatic entry clause. You accepted the ceremonial drink. I didn't drink it. Intent counts, Lissy said too smoothly. The guard stepped aside, not to arrest him, but to bow. Calder looked around. Every pair of long, luminous eyes was now trained on him. I have a ship, he said. I can leave. Right now. The ship was confiscated, Yari said, and melted. Also, we liked your playlist. Very rebellious. This is a nightmare. This is your coronation, Lissy said, stepping closer. And your initiation. Threnna slapped a gauntlet on his back, so hard he almost fell forward. Don't worry, human. We'll go easy on you. At first. The laughter resumed. Calder rubbed his forehead. Great. I kill a monster, and now I'm dating a space committee. Dating. Yari giggled. Oh, sweet star-blind ape. You have no idea what's coming. And just like that, the doors closed behind him. Calder woke up in a bed that felt like it had opinions about him. He shifted, groaning as silk-smooth sheets slithered against his skin. The mattress responded by adjusting firmness beneath his spine and sighing, yes, sighing, as if disappointed in his posture. A canopy of bioluminescent vines pulsed overhead in lazy blue rhythms, one tendril lazily brushing his forehead like a grandmother checking for a fever. Something smelled like lemon and steel. Where am I? He muttered, rubbing his eyes. Welcome to the Royal Sanctum of Serenity, said a voice from the wall, also known by the staff as the room where new kings panic. Calder sat up, quickly regretted it, and flopped back down. Great. Sentient decor. I am not decor, the voice replied. I'm a third-gen hospitality AI with a minor in sarcasm. You may call me Hessel. Nice to meet you, Hessel. Can you help me escape? Certainly, Hessel said. All you need to do is outrun 14 genetically modified concubine guards, bypass retina-encoded doors, survive a drop from a tower that floats half a kilometer above the ground, and outweed an Imperial transport with facial recognition drones. Do you have a good cardio routine? Calder sighed. Thought so, Hessel added. Would you like breakfast instead? He didn't respond. The events of the previous day came flooding back in a rush. The gala, the assassination, the laughter, the declaration that he was now not just king, but consort to a very politically sharp and very biologically impressive group of alien women. Maybe this is a coma dream, he said. Denial is common, Hessel replied. Would you like that with or without toast? The door slid open with a hiss, revealing Lissy, wearing a gown made of what looked like sunlight filtered through aquarium glass. Behind her floated two assistants, one carrying a holographic tablet, the other a tray of steaming cubes Calder hoped were food. You look remarkably unassassinated this morning, she said, approaching. That makes one of us, Calder replied. Is there a manual for this job? Several, she said. One written in plasma code, one in blood, and one in bad poetry. But we thought it might be faster to just brief you over breakfast. He sat up again, wincing. Why do I feel like I've been run over by a cultural exchange program? Threnna visited during the night, Lissy said. She was concerned you might be faking your humanity. By what, punching me in my sleep? She tried to kiss you, actually. You bit her. Calder blinked. That's not how I remember dreams going. Good instincts, she said, smiling faintly. Now come. The Palace Council expects their king consort to at least pretend he knows what a fiscal treaty is. They walked through corridors that adjusted themselves to his gait. Walls reshaped. Ceilings flexed. The architecture was half tech, half living organism, and entirely too invested in aesthetics. Holograms flickered with headlines in alien glyphs. Human kills king, empire redecorates. New consort hot. Confused, possibly toasted. Am I trending? Calder asked. Wildly, Lissy replied. You're being called the flame of freedom, the blade of desire, and, oddly, the moist emperor. I don't like that last one. Neither do we. But Yari's memes are too fast to stop. The council chamber resembled an ancient amphitheater mated with a spaceship bridge. 26 women, each more intimidating than the last, were already seated. Calder walked in, feeling like someone who'd accidentally wandered into a high-level chess game armed with a spoon. Yari waved. "Hey, me back." He ignored that. Barely. A tall woman with gold-veined skin and eyes like cracked ice stood. I moved to recognize the human as the temporary executive consort until such time as we can confirm he bleeds diplomatically. What does that even mean? Calder asked. Means you're temporary until you prove useful, Threnna said, rolling a knife across her knuckles. I thought stabbing the last guy was my resume. You scored points, Lissy said. But leadership's a marathon of mistakes. You'll fit right in. The next hour was a blur of words like quantum tariffs, wormhole jurisdiction, and emotional budgetary obligations. Calder tried to nod at the right times. Once, he agreed to a fleet deployment, only to realize later it was a proposal to send gourmet noodles to a moon-shaped food station. I'm not cut out for this, he muttered. No one is, Lissy whispered. We just pretend harder. After the council adjourned, Yari grabbed his arm and dragged him into a lounge where gravity misbehaved out of spite. Furniture floated. So did drinks. Calder missed the floor. Congratulations, she said, handing him a fizzing purple orb. You made it through your first meeting without throwing up. That puts you ahead of 4 previous monarchs. Good to know I'm beating the average, he said, sipping. What is this? Fruit juice. From a fruit that bites back if you don't charm it first. He set it down carefully. I'm still processing that your last king was this unpopular. Unpopular, she snorted. He banned singing. Tried to tax dreams. Once ordered a comet redirected because he didn't like the shape. What did it look like? A shrimp. Calder rubbed his face. I don't know what I'm doing. Perfect. Yari grinned. You'll fit in fine. Back in his quarters, Hessel piped up again. How was your first day as Galaxy's most reluctant harem lord? Don't call me that. Noted. Would you like a bath infused with calming neuro oils and regret? I'll take the regret separately. The bath appeared anyway. Calder stepped in, letting the warm water erase a fraction of the insanity. Above him, the ceiling projected a starfield that shifted with his pulse. He didn't feel like a king. He felt like a man who'd accidentally walked into a revolution with a knife and a bad attitude. But maybe, just maybe, that's what they needed. The door exploded inward with a sound like a drunk tuba falling down a metal staircase. Calder dropped his spoon, which bounced once off the ceiling and floated away. He was in the middle of what the palace chef had called breakfast, a word that apparently meant gelatinous puzzle cubes, flavored like smoked citrus regret. He sighed. Let me guess. Another assassination attempt. False alarm, Threnna said, stepping through the smoke with a grin and a weapon that looked suspiciously like it had been built by welding 2 different species of rifles together with chewing gum. I just got bored waiting for you. You could have knocked. I did. With explosives. Behind her, 2 security drones hovered, clicking nervously and trying to reconstruct the door using nanopaste. One of them beeped in Morse code. Please respect structural integrity. Calder floated off the floor with a soft push and landed near the table. Can I at least finish my this? He pointed at the wobbling, color-changing food blob. Threnna picked it up and hurled it at the wall. It stuck. Barely. Good. Now we spar. I already got punched by bureaucracy yesterday, Calder said, and someone tried to slip quantum laxatives into my tea. Can't that count as cardio? Threnna tossed him a weapon, a collapsible staff that assembled midair with a pleasant chunk sound. No, this is cultural bonding. And also, I'm curious how many bones you're hiding. You mean to break them? She smiled. They trained in the combat chamber, a spherical room with shifting gravity and ambient music designed to make you feel like an epic war hero even if you tripped over your own feet. Calder swung the staff like someone who had seen martial arts once, from a distance, through a foggy window. Threnna ducked under one of his clumsy strikes and jabbed his ribs with the blunt end. He spun, stumbled, and flailed into a wall, which absorbed him with a wet thwop, and then ejected him back into the center. Okay, he gasped. Your walls, I mean. They're honest, Threnna said, circling him. Like us. He struck again, this time with some measure of coordination. She blocked it with one arm, disarmed him with the other, and pinned him against the floor, using only her knee and a grin that probably qualified as a war crime. You're improving. By what metric? You haven't cried once. Before he could respond, the training room lights shifted to red. A siren howled, for musical tones followed by an unpleasant honking sound that could only have been designed by someone who hated peace and joy. Council emergency session, Threnna muttered, standing. Come on, King Punchable. Time to act royal. The council chamber was already buzzing when they arrived. Lissy stood at the head of the spiral dais, her expression a perfect blend of poised concern and mild annoyance. We've intercepted a transmission, she said. A faction of the late king's loyalists has seized control of a mining station in orbit around Grail. Grail, Calder said slowly. Is that the place with the illegal noodle fighting rings? No, Yari said. That's Growl. Grail is the one with the sentient moss protests. Ah, Calder nodded. The moss that sued the weather system. They're threatening to destabilize the station's core if we don't hand over the throne, Lissy continued. They've issued demands. Also a playlist. Wait, Calder said. They threatened planetary genocide and curated music. Yari pulled up a holographic display. It's mostly war chants, but track 3 slaps. Calder folded his arms. What's our move? Traditionally, Lissy said, we send a fleet. Destroy their communications. Apply force. Non-traditionally, we let you talk to them. Me, Calder asked. The guy who confused tax reform with a dessert menu yesterday. Yes, Yari said. You're unpredictable. Also, we're out of torpedoes. Someone redirected the budget. Who would do that? Calder asked. Everyone turned to Yari. What, she said. We needed fireworks for the new spa opening. The next thing Calder knew, he was inside a diplomatic shuttle shaped like a sea urchin, having an identity crisis, flanked by 2 honor guards who looked like they could break a starship in half just by sneezing. The shuttle AI played soothing elevator music while Calder reviewed the hostage situation notes, which mostly consisted of unhelpful slogans and an aggressive doodle of him being decapitated. I'm going to die, he muttered. Statistically likely, said the AI cheerfully, but your approval ratings will soar. The mining station loomed ahead, angular, rusting, and surrounded by debris. Calder landed, was greeted by 2 armed rebels in mismatched armor, and escorted into a chamber that smelled like burned coffee and nervous ambition. The rebel leader was short, twitchy, and wearing half a crown duct taped to his head. I am General Horthen, he declared, the rightful heir to Vaelthar's will. You sure? Calder asked. You look more like the heir to a very chaotic garage sale. Mock me all you want, human. You rule nothing. Your throne is made of lies. I agree, Calder said. It's also extremely uncomfortable. Do you know it vibrates when you lie? I sat on it once, and it accused me of stealing jam. Horthen blinked. What? Calder leaned in. I didn't come to fight you, Horthen. I came to offer something better than power. Horthen squinted. What's better than power? Freedom, redemption, and possibly brunch. There was a pause. One of the guards coughed. Brunch? Horthen asked. Brunch, Calder nodded. We have pancakes that taste like forgiveness and eggs that whisper affirmations. You could join us. Make peace. Rebuild this empire with us. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Horthen laughed. You're insane. Absolutely, Calder said. But I've got a harem full of assassins, a sarcastic AI, and a chair that hums show tunes when you're sad. What do you have? Horthen looked around. One of his men had started humming. Another was sniffing his armpit. I'll consider your proposal. Calder stood. Do. Or don't. But if you come for my throne again, I'll send Yari with interpretive dance explosives. On the flight back, Calder slumped into his seat. I think I just negotiated peace, he said. You also offered him brunch, said the AI. That part may require follow-up. Calder stared at the stars ahead. He was still alive. Somehow. and very, very tired. Calder tried to duck, but the ceremonial cape got caught in the hover throne. "You're doing it wrong again," Lissy said, without looking up from her tablet. "That bow is supposed to signify grace, not existential despair." "I'm a human, Lissy. We invented despair. We perfected it. You're lucky I'm not weeping gently into a space flute." Yari leaned in from the side. To be fair, the last ruler wept every time he lost at chess, or sneezed, or heard acoustic harpcore. "I've been in charge for 2 weeks, Calder said. "I've been poisoned twice, insulted on 17 broadcasts, and today I accidentally approved the construction of a monument shaped like my face." "Correction," Lissy said. "You approved a garden maze shaped like your face. Children will get lost in your jawline." "I'm going to stage a coup," Calder muttered, "against myself." They were in the hollow chorus chamber, where imperial proclamations were recorded in 10 dimensions and translated into the 16 dominant galactic languages, plus Mimic, a language based entirely on interpretive dance. 2 of the dancers were currently stretching ominously nearby. Calder stood in the center, draped in ceremonial robes that made him look like a disgraced magician. Threnna handed him a ceremonial scepter. It pulsed. "Why is this humming?" he asked. "It responds to fear," she said. "Perfect." Yari snapped her fingers. "Places everyone. Calder's about to unite the outer systems, or give them collective second-hand embarrassment." The chamber dimmed, the lights shifting to a bioluminescent blue as the holocameras spun silently in midair. Calder took a breath. "Citizens of the Zirithan Dominion," he began. "This is your king consort speaking. Unless there's been another coup while I was in the bathroom. In that case, disregard this message and please let me keep the robe. It's comfy." There was a pause. Lissy didn't flinch. Yari beamed. "We are in a time of change," Calder continued. "And change is hard. Like explaining taxes. Or assembling furniture from the Androxian Flatpack Emporium. But we can do hard things. We can build something new." The scepter flared briefly. "Let us take the shattered pieces of what came before and make a mosaic. Or at least a weird statue that makes people stop and say, 'Huh, that's kind of inspiring.' Let's write new laws that don't involve laser duels over parking tickets. Let's design a future where Moss doesn't have to unionize just to get proper sunlight." A murmur of approval rippled through the room. "And if we must fight those who threaten our peace, those who cling to the old cruelty like it's a fashionable cape, we'll do it. But we'll fight smart. We'll fight together. And we'll bring snacks." He paused, nodded to the Mimic interpreters, who immediately launched into what could only be described as jazz hands of defiance. The speech went out. Broadcasts flickered across the Dominion. Some laughed. Some cried. A few rebels reportedly threw their weapons into the nearest recycling chute out of sheer confusion. Back in the palace, Calder collapsed onto a couch shaped like a reclining frog. "Did that sound remotely leader-y?" he asked. "You said snacks in a declaration of intent," Lissy said. "So yes, you sounded like a Zirithan ruler." "Good," Calder groaned. "Because I need a break." Yari flopped next to him. "Great timing. You're hosting the cultural delegation from the Nebulari Spiral in 10 minutes. "Nope," Calder said. "I'm becoming a ghost. I'm dissolving into pure plasma and joining the wind." "They bring gifts," she added. "I'm in," he said, sitting upright. "Do I bow dance or pretend to understand abstract smells?" "All 3, Threnna said, entering with a data pad. "Also, they don't blink, or speak, or believe in chairs." 10 minutes later, Calder stood barefoot on a hover disk, holding a bowl of anti-gravity incense, while 3 Nebulari delegates hummed telepathic vibrations into his spine. One of them handed him a cube that blinked in binary haikus. Yari leaned in. "They just offered you an alliance and a planet. Also a rare cheese." Calder blinked. "I love this job." Then the alarms went off. This time, there was no ambiguity. The alert glyphs glowed crimson. Hessel's voice rang out through the intercom system with the tone of someone holding back mild panic. "Enemy vessel inbound. Unidentified class. Vectoring toward the palace. Shield arrays charging." Calder stood. Please tell me that's just another delegation with poor communication skills. Nope, Threnna said, scanning the data. That's a war cruiser. Lissy appeared beside him. They're broadcasting. Audio only. Putting it through. The voice that crackled over the comms was familiar. Too familiar. This is Commander Gryvex of the True Flame Reclamation. We do not recognize the authority of a human pretender. You will surrender the throne and the royal harem, or be destroyed. Calder sighed. Why does everyone want my job and my love life? Yari shrugged. You make failure look adorable. Options, he asked. Fight and probably win with heavy losses, Lissy said. Flee and lose all respect forever. Or what? Yari grinned. We bluff. 5 minutes later, Calder appeared on a palace-wide broadcast dressed in a robe of firelight mesh, surrounded by every member of the former royal harem, all glaring into the camera like vengeance in high heels. He stared directly into the lens. To Commander Gryvex, he said, this is your final warning. I'm not just the guy who killed your king. I'm the guy who survived Threnna's combat cuddles, learned 12 forms of interspecies etiquette, and drank the ceremonial tea of the silent choir without screaming. He pointed at the camera. I have a council of psychic queens, a chair that reads minds, a toaster that can cook rebellion into your waffles. And I'm tired. Pause. So either leave peacefully, or prepare to be utterly, horrifyingly, embarrassingly outmaneuvered. Also, we've hacked your ship's entertainment system and replaced it with my speeches. On loop. The signal cut. Gryvex's warcruiser hesitated. Then it turned and left. Cheers broke out in the command room. Calder let out a slow breath. That worked. Yari held up a datapad. Only because I looped your first speech over their comms mid-thread. You hit snacks at the perfect time. Calder leaned back, stunned. I think I just won a war with brunch and sarcasm. Threnna slapped him on the back. You're finally learning. He groaned. That's the scariest thing anyone said to me all week. Calder stood before the Galactic Concord Tribunal, wearing a crown made entirely of diplomatic loopholes and mild resentment. State your final declaration, Sovereign Consort Calder Vance of the Zirithan Dominion, the High Arbiter said, looking mildly bored and vaguely translucent. Calder cleared his throat. In conclusion, Your Honors, I didn't plan to assassinate a king and accidentally reform an interstellar government through improvisation, brunch, and sheer panic. But I'd like it noted that it mostly worked, nobody important exploded, and we now have standardized tax reform that doesn't involve ritual combat. A long pause. The High Arbiter blinked slowly. And the concubines? They're not concubines anymore, Calder said. They're the ruling council. Partners. Friends. Occasional sparring instructors. Also, Yari's technically a religious figure now. Praise be to the holy meme. Yari whispered from the bench behind him, holding up a ceremonial glow stick. The tribunal voted. Lights flashed green. One orb exploded in celebratory confetti. Congratulations, the High Arbiter intoned. You remain king. Or consort. Or whatever you people are doing. Galactic recognition is granted. Also, please stop sending fruit baskets. They are confusing our customs officers. Back on Zaratha, the palace held a celebration. Not the terrifying kind with levitating fire beasts and interpretive sword dances, but the calmer kind. Food, laughter, occasional light treason jokes. Calder wandered through the gardens, now fully sculpted into a maze resembling his deeply confused facial expression. A pair of children chased each other through his left eyebrow. He sighed happily. Lissy approached from the central archway, datapad tucked under one arm. Congratulations. You survived galactic bureaucracy. I didn't think you'd make it past the part where they asked about your moral alignment. I made a persuasive case, Calder said, and bribed them with Threnna's banana plasma bread. Unethical but effective. Story of my life. They walked together past a fountain that occasionally burped inspirational quotes. What now? He asked. Now, Lissy said. Now you lead. Or delegate so well no one notices you're playing fetch with the Palace AI dog simulator during meetings. Still think I'm not a mistake. She stopped walking. "You are absolutely a mistake," she said. "But you're our mistake. And for the first time in centuries, people believe in something again, even if that something is a stubborn, sarcastic, over-caffeinated human with a hero complex." He grinned. "I'm not over-caffeinated anymore. I switched to herbal tea. It judges me less." They returned to the council chamber, now redesigned with comfortable chairs, snacks on every table, and a no assassinations this week scoreboard proudly showing double digits. The council was mid-argument about universal music licensing laws and whether or not planetary anthems could include screaming. Frenna waved him over. "We're deciding if screaming is a valid national sound symbol. You're the tiebreaker." Calder sat down. "Depends. Is it joyous screaming or the my airlock just failed kind?" "Art is subjective," said Yari, dropping a hologram of a planet-sized kazoo into the air. Council business resumed. It wasn't glamorous. It was rarely simple. But it worked somehow. Calder had started out running from responsibility, stabbing tyrants, and failing at diplomacy. Now he was, well, still occasionally stabbing things, but with consent and better reasons. Later that evening, as the artificial moons flickered on and the garden's ambient starlight engine began projecting constellations shaped like various council members doing heroic poses, Calder sat on the palace balcony with a mug of tea. Hessel piped up through the wall. "You've come a long way, meatbag." "Thanks, Toaster. You saved a star-spanning empire with brunch. That's a first." "I think I finally get it," Calder said. "Get what?" "It's not about being worthy of the throne. It's about not running from it. About showing up every day, even if you're confused, underdressed, and armed only with sarcasm." There was a pause. Then Hessel said, "That's the most coherent thing you've said in weeks." "Write it down. Put it on the statue." "There's a statue. There's going to be." Yari won a bet. The stars shimmered. Somewhere, a choir of moss sang in legally approved harmony. Peace was still fragile. Power always tempted. But Calder had allies now. A council that challenged him, a people who tolerated him, and an empire that had stopped burning just long enough to laugh. It was enough. For now. The end.